Good morning. We are here roughly 30 minutes earlier than usual. We're in the night. We're like in the early 9 o'clock hours, 9:22. I usually try to start at 10. I came up here earlier because, well, let's just say, trying to do it from the former uh, house is not exactly. I mean, it's plausible, but it's apparently going to have that person there today. They're going to come back, and I don't know what kind of response they're going to have to me trying to do my thing. So I just wanted to give the update that the homeless saga is apparently concluded. Um, there was an agreement reached this past Saturday where the person uh, agreed to drop down that ridiculous 500 price by, I think it's like 40%. Almost, like, basically almost got cut in half thanks to this other person's intervention. Uh, and I keep reminding myself I'm accepting these terms because the person themselves is not likely to be able to ever admit that they did anything wrong. And they so certainly did not this past Saturday. But also because if I don't want to pay it anymore, I can just do my thing. And I don't feel bad about like breaking an agreement because once one party breaks an agreement, then all bets are off. So uh, if it gets to be too much, I can just be on my way again. So revisionist history is where there's a sequence of events that are very clearly known by either multiple people or a person, and somebody, usually for their own benefit, decides to pretend that what happened did not happen or it didn't happen the way that's being stated. Before we get even further, let me make sure I turn the brightness down because that's like 2 hours of battery just on being seen, which is really nuts. Like I can't believe that lowers it that much. But as I was saying, it's pretty much just when a person takes something that we know happened and pretends that it didn't happen or it happened a different way. Um, Now I've explained this situation several times, and the sequence of events was at the start of last month. This person gave me this warning about you will pay 500 a month, 5 times increase from what I was already paying. All of April, it's just me looking for jobs. About halfway through the month, this person gets into an argument with one of their other relatives, and I guess starts acting slightly nicer. They become a kinder, gentler individual. And during this conversation that we have, I asked them if they can, if they want to see my various applications in my email, which is just to prove that I've been looking for work. And also, I kind of was thinking about this. I really do feel like a child in preschool having to show, their guardian or parent their homework, like to prove that they did it. But even then, it's like they decline. They say they want to see it, and that's actually the third time that's happened where you offer to show them one of the to show them your proof that you're looking for work, and then they just refuse to look at it. So after they decline to check this out, the rest of the month again is just me looking for work for the next 2 weeks, and then Monday May 1st arrives, and they tell me to give them $500. I don't have it, so I start packing my stuff because I'm assuming that if somebody can't pay the amount that they want, they don't want them there. That's what typically happens with people that demand money of someone each month. If the person doesn't have it, they tell them to get out. So during the exchange on Saturday, which had a mediator who was, I think, like 40 or 30% on my side and 60 or 70% on the other person's side, they were saying that supposedly, and they said this yesterday, that I was like, they were finding me going because I was rude or whatever. And I laughed because it's like they almost forget that the exchange that caused me to pack up that morning was them coming and asking me half a thousand. They didn't go, "Oh my God, I'm so sick of you being rude. Get out." No, it was, "Do you have money that I know you don't have?" And the interpretation I had to that was, "Okay, well, if I don't have this, then there's no point in me being here." So yeah, they pretended that this was, And I guess what I'm always amazed by is how people have a really bad habit of going from one topic to another. They kind of get caught sideways on things. They don't really focus on one thing. Um, like I've pointed out during several conversations that have either been, in text messages or in some other format where people could hear it, that if you talk to one of these people long enough, the conversation gets derailed into like 6 or 7 different subjects. Um, I mean, it's just kind of funny that they're trying to pretend like this was over some behavioral thing when no, it was them trying to get squeeze some money out of me and it didn't work. So I said people lie so much, and during the summit, they tried to say that I never offered to show them my email. I could do nothing but put my hand over my mouth and just laugh. It's just God, people they lie about some of the most simple things. And really, that's kind of what I've started noticing with a lot of these different people I've either been staying with or being, around more often. That it could be the most basic thing. It could be something that's like, for example, if somebody admits that they, let's say, lied on a job application, right? Okay, where they can get in trouble with their employer, they can, lose their livelihood. I get where somebody doesn't want to admit to something like that, but if you are recounting a private conversation you had with someone where they offered to show you some proof and you said you don't want to see it, and then you try to say, "Oh, they never offered it." It's like, what? Why are you lying about that? But of course, they'll never admit, to their side, and that's why I said it's hard to like when you're around people like that. It's really hard to not want to record everything because I like what if they can't even be honest about basic stuff like that. What can you expect them to tell the truth about? It's like people will pick the most non-contentious stuff to try and like pretend they know something or spin it in a way or whatever. Like I remember when I was talking to my friend and I asked him, what single payer healthcare was, and he was like, it's healthcare for single parents. Like, and I just said to him, just admit you don't know it. Because as someone who's been into history and politics or all the rest. It's like if I don't know something, I admit to myself first of all that I don't know it, and then I try to look it up. Or if someone's telling me about something, and I don't believe I'm as familiar with it as they are. I don't know. I still feel like I don't know that much about it. I'll let them tell me. It's just I don't know. People just they let their pride get in the way of things that are not necessary to have a, I guess, dispute over. Like I just can't imagine being so reluctant to admitting that you're not aware of a healthcare system in another country. But like I said before, a lot of people just I don't know what the deal with them is. I really don't. Too many lies. Mm. Yeah, today's gonna be pretty packed. After I do the stream, I have to go up to this stupid community college and figure out something with a transcript. I'm just rolling my eyes because it's one of those like I explained the college situation before where it really came down to money and me not having enough, and then these guardians being reluctant to pay it. And my thing is, if I say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, it feels like there's this group of people. It's not that big a group. It's like two, three, four, who just they always want to talk about like, oh, you're so disrespectful. They don't respect my decision to say I'm done with this. They have to like find all these Weasley ways to worm it into a conversation. This person sends me a message talking about you need to either go to school or go to work, and it's like, how is somebody supposed to go to school and pay a half a thousand a month? But this is why I said about like the stupidity of it. Just people just they create an objective and they don't even care about the logistics of it. We had a guy who came to I think it was the Empathy Eclipse stream, and was talking about become a dentist and go to school to become one, and then you'll be able to pay all your bills and live this happily ever after life. But then completely has no solution or answer to how someone is supposed to go to school full time to become a dentist while also trying to pay their own rent at the same. I mean, I tell you that people, they take a bunch of darts and throw it at a wall and try to see what sticks. When you have a conversation with them, you might as well be talking to thin air, because that's the kind of just airheaded response you get when you're, you know, speaking to these people. They have no solutions. And a lot of the stuff that they come up with is half baked. They didn't think it out that much. It's just whatever pops into their head. It's always the most disrespectful, egotistical pricks accusing others of disrespect. Well, you know what I'm saying about how, if you want to talk about disrespect, if somebody tells you they don't want to do something anymore, and then you keep like years later are still like, oh, you must go and do this, go and do this. You see how that's disrespectful, because you're not even honoring the person's wishes. You know, like I'm saying in Roman English, I'm not interested in going to school. I'm not. It's a very bitter memory. I really don't feel like taking 2 years of math by itself, which is what was the last thing I had on my, like, that's the reason I didn't apply to any of the schools out here. Um, because on my um, school I went to before, they said that was the only thing I was missing to get a associate degree. And I said, like, I had a lot of trouble, and you know, it's just I would rather not fool myself into thinking that I'm motivated to just do math every single week by itself for 2 years. I'm not interested. I really am not. And like I said, the biggest thing that also makes me not want to go back is that right now they're talking up the the associate degree. But guess what happens when you get that piece of paper? Oh, an associate degree can only get you so far. You should try to get a bachelor, because it. You see how they just raise the goalposts. So next 2 years it'll be an associate degree. Then the 2 years after that'll be a bachelor's degree. Then the 4 years after that'll be a master. It's just, it's never enough, man. I'm telling you, dude. It's just, I'm starting to realize that adults always project. A lot of people are scared of introspection, so they develop a "you can't tell me nothing" attitude so they can impose authority on others. Oh yeah, all they do is just you know, they're never wrong about anything. I mean, you saw this with like, we're not even talking about like making somebody homeless, but when you get to the part where you know, like we mentioned the fries, for example, where they threw out the fries instead of just asking me, "Hey, are you still eating these?" Uh, and then you know, it wasn't their fault, because they thought it was old. They couldn't ask if it was old. They just thought it was old, so it must be true. You know, and then the machine that was ripping up all my shirts. Oh, there's something wrong with the shirts, even the ones you've had for years that you washed in plenty of other machines that never had this happen before. But oh, there's something wrong with the shirts. That reminds me, after I leave from here, I'm gonna probably go to that tailor before I go to that stupid school. I really don't even feel like going up there. Like it's just such a big waste of time. But yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot of this person's just to blame for nothing. And by the way, I didn't even get to mention. I was gonna wait until, well, we don't even know if Megumi's gonna show up, but I was gonna wait until he showed up to mention that back in January, when that thing happened over the, you know, like locking the door or whatever, um the spin artist said, like, at one point during the 2 or 3 hour like, you know, phone call that took place, that the Sunday after that, you put yourself out, right? Even though this is the same person who said, you know, he can't bring his expletive back over there, you know, basically is like trying to decree I can no longer go to my own damn house. So you get where it's nuts that they're gonna say that he would say I put myself out, but then he's also trying to say I can't come back, or like making the order that I can't. So it would be like if I said, like let's say Akatsuki Merchant, you and I are always tossing around a baseball outside, right? And then one day the baseball, I don't know, gets like a scratch on it. And you're like, man, I'm not playing with this thing anymore. I'm tired of it getting scraped up. And then I'm like, Akatsuki Merchant, you scraped up our baseball. You can't play with it anymore. And then as you're like, okay, I'm not playing with it anyway. You chose to not play with it yourself. It's like, no, I'm the one making the decree that you can't play with it anymore. But somehow you made it to where like you get where they're trying to blame they're basically saying that you made them do this effectively. Council Merchant says, yeah, see, they don't want to address the actual problem because addressing the actual problem means they'll have to reflect on the fact that they're responsible for the situation. I like how they tried to blame me for them not bothering to see if I was all right. They were like, I called you and you didn't respond or you didn't answer. It's like they called me. So in the 3 weeks where I was without a place, right? They called me one day, which was the day after I left, and that was it. And they sent about 5 or 6 different text messages, and in only one of them did they say anything to the effect of "I hope you're right." Everything else was barking orders: "Come pick up these bottles. I'm done recycling." Uh, and then the greatest hits message that was like this big. So they showed their lack of concern. I can guarantee they preach to you about responsibility. Yeah, they love singing that song. Somebody added me to a group on a website I barely use. That is really weird. Yeah, I met this one person on one of those websites yesterday. We were actually having a decent little dialogue. But I was going to tell you that what's really funny. Oh no, I hope I don't get notifications every 5 seconds. I'm just going to turn my phone off. But I was going to say that I thought it was really nuts how like the reason I'm bringing it up is because yeah, on Saturday when I was like mentioning how this person claims to love me and cares so much about me and all the rest of this crap, but you know they were fine with me being homeless. They actually said, and these were their exact words: "You're homeless because you choose to be homeless." And Akatsuki Merchant, I just want you to understand, if you ever are confused as to why I really don't like or I really don't love and or want to be around these relatives, then just remember that one particular line. So it is I chose to be homeless by not paying an amount of money that was increased 5 times what it already was. That when the person who increased it knew I couldn't pay it because they knew I was unemployed. But that was me choosing to not have somewhere to stay. And then they cite the example of how they went out of town for a week and I could have stayed there while they were. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay somewhere while a person that doesn't want me to be there is out of town, and I have no idea which day they're going to come back. And then if they come back while I'm still there, they're going to get mad at me. And yeah, that's a great idea. People really love coming up with delusional cope so they can feel better about something. That's why I said they're to blame for nothing. Anytime they do something, you made them do it. Anytime their actions have a consequence that is something that they know is not right or not good, they're they're never to blame for it. It's always the fault of whoever the other person or party is every time. I just thought it was so funny that they tried to like rewrite history and say that it was over disrespect. I'm like, dude, get out of my face. Like if it was over an amount of money that they knew I couldn't pay, which is why when they asked me to when they demanded that I give them this amount of money, the first thing I did was start packing my stuff. There was no nothing about being rude or mean or any of that. Give me a break. Let me say this was really about a financial dispute, and they're trying to pretend it was a behavioral one. But if it was a behavioral one, they would have never mentioned trying to increase the amount I pay by any ridiculous amount like that. So, they just they sit there and they tell lies. I mean, as far as I do believe that it was like them doing that was designed to screw with me, but I mean, they weren't getting anything out of me anyway. So part of me still can't believe that this happened. Because at the end of it, I was like, I spent a whole month almost every single day either applying for a job or going to interviews. To where the last week before I left, this is the last week of the month, distinctively there were four. I had interviews on every day of that week except the Friday. Monday was some guy from some, I don't even remember what the agency was, but he didn't call me at the time that he said he would. Then we started playing phone tag, and he was telling me to call him back tomorrow and at before a certain time. I said to hell with it. Tuesday was some like I think it was a coffee place, and they're like far away, and I'm not driving an hour just to get nothing. Then Wednesday was some agency that helps people or whatever, and I spoke to the lady on the phone for that for I think it was like half an hour or whatever, and went nowhere. And then Thursday was some restaurant where I went up in there and spoke to the guy, and he smiled in my face, and that went nowhere. So it's kind of crazy how like all the way to the end I was still looking for stuff, and at the same time she or I guess this person, they're just like whatever, just who cares. That's why I said, like, if you think about this, and I know it's hard for because guys on the internet hate other men, especially, but if you think about this from my perspective, you're given a month to find a job, and then you spend the entire month of April traveling to different places all across the state looking for one, in addition to filling stuff out over and over. And then after this very tiring, exhausting journey around the whole damn state, at the end of it, you're told by the person you're living with, give me five times what you already are paying me while unemployed, and then they're like surprised when you say to hell with it and just leave. I guess I think we all have a certain point where we just get sick of stuff, and for me that was that, because I was tired of like every day getting up, driving here, talking to this person at this time of day, going over there, like it never stops. That's what I said. Even after we got into the homeless saga, I still look for work. I have a place right now. They want me to take a test tomorrow. I told you I'm so irritated with these jobs. People would rather lie to themselves, rather than accepting a situation as is. They see what they want to see. Reality be damned. Well, I'm just saying it's kind of funny how both of like those two don't like each other, but they reach the same conclusion of like, you made me do this, or you're doing this, or whatever. Like they bark an order of get out or leave or whatever, but then they say like, oh, you put yourself out. You choose to be homeless. I mean, what an idiotic thing to say. Do I choose to be and I made sure to say this in front of him. I said the biggest problem is this person believes being unemployed for me is a choice, and it's not. I can't tell you how many times I filled an application, sat up there and did interviews with the pricks running the place, and then it goes nowhere, and I want to tear my hair out. But it's not from a lack of trying. It's just these places are not hiring. And I said the biggest problem is always going to be that this person has convinced themselves that being unemployed is a choice, and it isn't. A lot of the worst people in our society fester on the internet because they know they're antisocial, hateful, would never be accepted in the public. That's why they hate. That's why they hate the world so much. Trust me, the people I told in real life were very sympathetic. One of them let me keep some of my stuff at their place because they live with their parents, so they can't. If they didn't, they would have let me stay there. Um, Another one did as well, and like I said, I was scared the first night, but after you know exceeding my expectations, I'm not as afraid anymore, or as worried. Like I said, I'm not about sitting here and pretend I have immunity or I'm not scared of anything, but just like it doesn't bother me as much as it did. And they started asking me questions. How did you shower? How did you use the internet? Just all types of weird little stuff. To make it seem like they care. I swear, people just little damn fly in here. I don't know if I got it or not. Nope. Hate that thing. Just flies around so fast. What happened was when I went to drop my associate at work, there was a person who left this bag of food on top of a it was like a pew or something, like on just on top of something, and it was like we parked right by it, and I didn't even. I was like, why are all these things around here? Because we'd never seen them before. But for multiple days, that same little bag has been sitting there, stinking up the place, attracting all these little pests. And one of them, like, I guess, is still in here from Friday. So it is what it is. Like I said, it's hard to not to like look at this stuff and not think something's screwed up. I did mention the fact that there's been multiple positions that this person has encouraged me to not take, and they tried to spin it as I just think he can do better. Like, prick, if you're talking about how upset you are that somebody doesn't have a job, and then multiple jobs are saying, hey, well, you can come work with us, and then you say, oh no, don't take this. Like, well, what do you want from them? I do think it was funny when they tried to do the whole like, why do you think you were fired in the past? Line, and I was like, well, first of all, uh, the first time was over a manager who, from literally my first day of working there, said, if I don't see an improvement in you that's drastic, we'll let you go. Which I thought was insane because you hired someone knowing that they don't know how to do this stuff, and then when they show they don't know how to do it, you're upset to the point of wanting to get rid of them. It's just weird. The retailer was people going on the website, they complain, regardless of if it's in your control or not, and then you get in trouble for it. But like I said, it's always my fault, so I'll just get across and nail myself to it so these people can be satisfied. Homeless because you want to be homeless. I'm like Akatsuki merchant. I just when I heard that line there, I really did want to just walk up out of that thing. That is one of the stupidest things I've heard this year, last year, in any year. The idea that somebody who followed the obligation that was assigned to them when they first came to stay over there and only left after the amount was increased by some ridiculous amount. That thing is outside. Um, would want to have nowhere to I mean, it's just stupid, man. Like that's why I said these people are confused as to why I don't want anything to do with them. It's this is the perfect example of that. I mean, I tell some jokes too, but that was just a dumb line, and like they actually meant that. They actually believed, oh yes, this person that was only left after I increased the price they were paying by this absurd amount. Oh yeah, they didn't want to have anywhere to stay. And dude, the way they spoke, they were like, "Why didn't you ask your friend if you could just stay with them instead of sleeping in your car?" It's like, do you not understand that if someone doesn't, whether they pay rent or not, if they are not the main person that pays rent, they don't have authority to say, "Okay, I will now move my friend in here with me or my associate in here with me." It's not really that hard of a thing to figure out. Because I said before, I don't know anyone my age that is not living with their parents or um, some like group of people that can afford any of the stuff out here. So, it really was like just damned if you do, damned if you don't, effectively. Mm. Yeah, I really don't even like using the word love or any of that stuff. It's just the people who've said they love me, they locked me out of my house. They threatened to put me out. They've been fine with me being homeless. I mean, I don't know how anyone can look at that stuff and say that that's love, you know? When I'm around them, I really do feel like I'm in the twilight zone. Just the priorities are backwards. The words don't match. The rhetoric doesn't match with the actions. They told me to call. They asked me if I called it the spin artist. I said, of course not. I mean, why would I, at a time of desperation, go to a person who said, "I don't owe you expletive"? It's like, yeah, then that's what I'm saying. There's like no reason for me to seek them out for help on anything because they're gonna turn their back on me like they've always done, or blame me for it. It's one of the either or. It's usually blame you for it and refuse to do anything to actually assist in you know, improving things. I remember when they tried to after I started working at that last place back in I think it was November, they called themselves trying to help me get a job and I was just thinking to myself, not only are you a day late and a dollar short, but where were you when I was drowning for 3 years while unemployed? Where were they? I'll tell you where they were. They were sitting there poking their nose up like this, looking down on me and wagging their finger and talk about I was so lazy and I'm just this piece of garbage that's just go end his own life. I mean, they don't care. Like they just they have a lot. They talk a good game at certain points, but if you actually just see their day to day machinations, it's all a gag, man. This and I again I wish I had better options, and I did before last year, and that's what's so depressing about this whole thing. I talked before about how when you have two places that do the hire to fire scheme of you're there with them for like 2 to 4 weeks before they decide to get rid of you, it really makes you paranoid, at least from my perspective, because I said before things are so botched at this point that if I get hired somewhere I don't even get excited anymore. I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll go and do this and we'll hope that you know They don't do their same old scheme. But we know, what's happened before, and we know they can happen again. We know that these places don't care about their employees one way or the other, and that's what leads them to, just unceremoniously snap their fingers and get rid of people. A Kotsky merchant, I cannot live alone. I don't have the means of income or the um, any factor where I could even cause that to occur. Only way I lived alone was when I was just in my car. So I don't know what point you're making. Just as me being unemployed wasn't a choice, me living with these other people is not a choice. If I actually had my way, I would have been employed for years, and I would have never even lived with any of these bastards. So I don't know what the point you're making here is. I really don't. At this point, it would be easier to just go and build a house in the forest than to like even actually dream about affording any of the stuff out here. Because I said before, the biggest problem for me is that if you start trying to afford, let's say, an apartment out here, sometimes they raise the rent, or as I've explained before, a lot of the places that hire will get rid of somebody in a couple of weeks or a month. So it's like you start working somewhere, they have you for a few weeks, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to let you go, and then you're out of luck, and now you have to figure out how you're going to be able to pay this month's rent without a job. I mean, it's all just crap. That's not what I meant. I was saying that I respond to your toxic family because I've been through a similar situation. Jem says greetings. I wish I could say some greetings. It's a pretty somber set of weeks. Jem, to give you an update, I wrote some more of the script for that uh, documentary I told you about. Um, I still haven't called my local Secretary of State, but that's because these last, I don't know if you've been familiar with any of it, but these last 3 weeks I've been on the streets because the person I was staying with decided to increase the amount I pay every month from 100 to 500, and I can't do that as an unemployed person. Um, but because of how unstable this situation is with them and whatever, I'm just gonna probably I really want to try to run for this thing, but it's man, I just wish things were more stable. I really do. I wish, like any other normal person, I could just go to my place, house, whatever, and after whatever type of work I do, just sit back, relax for a little bit. But it's no, I didn't have a lease. They what happened is they got mad at me because I didn't show them the security code on my credit card, which is nobody's damn business but me, and that's not even about them. That's about just basic privacy. So they sent me this message demanding that I pay 500 starting May 1st, and when May 1st came, and of course they don't mention this at all between the start of April and the end of the month. I just started packing my stuff and left, and then we had a peace summit on Saturday where they reduced the amount to 300 instead of 500. But and at first I wasn't even going to take the offer, but what I'm going to do is if it gets to be too much, which it might be after 2 or 3 months, I'll just leave again because they already showed they can break the agreement, so can I. Like I said, man, I tried very hard to keep the peace with these people. I really did. When somebody has a problem with you, they'll find a way to screw things up. That's for sure. I'm telling you, I wish I had a normal supporting family. I really do. I really wish that. You know, they're so spiteful that they sent me a message on, I think it was like last Tuesday, like, come and get your bottles before the weekend. I'm through recycling, even though they've never actually been to a recycling center ever. Like every time I would get them, I would have to take them all up there by myself. Um, so it's like they'll be spiteful enough to do even something like that, you know, because it really just comes down to, here's some stuff that, you know, once you get about five, six, seven, eight, nine of those, then you take it up to the place. They're like, come get them, and it's maybe like four or five. I'm like, wow, the $6 that was sitting back here was really important to them. Jim, if I move out of my state, that's me committing political career suicide, because then I'd have to wait another, what, 14 years to be able to run for a position. Like I'm not doing that. And you're asking me to move to places where I have no family. So if I can't pay something, then I'll just be in the same situation minus being around people I actually know who could theoretically alleviate me of it. Try the South, right, where I can make 7.25 an hour. I'll never forget when Rokano went on Shapiro's on what was that, Daily Wire or whatever, and he asked Shapiro, "What do you think the minimum wage should be raised to?" And he was like, "I don't think that it should be raised. I don't have an amount that it should be increased to. Businesses should be competitive and ask what the wages are." Jim, you remind me of that one guy that came on my stream talking about become a dentist and then told me to move to Texas, and then the kicker is that he reveals that he still lives with his parents, so he has no leg to stand on as far as telling somebody how to be independent. Like I said, I have a stable mailing address. Like I have a place that my mail is sent to that I know that I'm always gonna be able to get it from. So I'll probably just run even if I have to be homeless while doing it. And like I said, if somebody asks me, I'll say stuff just costs too much. Well, no one could call you an elite. Well, yeah, that's my point. That I'm not. I mean, the person that currently represented my district, they again they didn't get the job because they had these amazing positions and they were so, uh, you know, innovative, and everyone thought they were very creative and interesting. No, it's because they were endorsed by the governor, the person who had the job before them. I mean, you know, none of this was about them being such a great candidate, and that's why I said I really do believe that, you know, if I tried, I could probably scrape off some votes from them, because most of the time when somebody runs against them, it's someone that doesn't even, you know, really try that hard. Like you don't see them going out and campaigning or do like doing anything, you know. I'm actually being reminded that if I ran, I wouldn't even be able to vote for myself because it would be sent to the house I'm locked out of. Terrific. Although I guess I could still go to the polling place and vote, manually. Yeah, I had one who, is not like the rest, but I think you understand where if you don't have a key to where someone stays and you have to like wait for them to be there for you to even get in, it's kind of disabilitating. Like it really can hinder you as far as being able to like really feel like you have somewhere to stay. You know what I mean? So like I said, I'm not going to give up that easily on doing this because I know that this stuff is not easy, and when you're dealing with the relatives I have, it's even worse. Tulsi always advocated for manual voting anyway. Man, don't even mention her. I don't know what she's turned into. I don't even want to hear that name anymore. When her and Harris got into their debate dispute, some of the K Hive actually called Tulsi toll expletive. So it's like the S and then a word that starts with H and ends with it that they attach to the end of it. Well, yeah, but it's like how much of the old her was real and not a careerist, and I mean that's my problem. That like we don't know when if she was always this way or had some magic change because it's really nuts to look at her in that primary versus her since then. Like the her in that primary was this anti-war single payer supporting candidate who when she dropped out endorsed Biden, and then 2 years later she's talking about his evil socialist woke takeover of America. I mean, like what is that? That sounds like two different people. Because I truly don't believe Biden has governed in some way that would make any sense for someone who liked him 3 years ago to now turn on him. And that's true because basically every single major Democrat in the House or Senate is sticking by him. So it's just one of those things where I don't know what occurred with her. It's what happens to them in the halls of Congress. Not to the extent of her. You really think you're going to see Sanders on Fox News talking about we need to get rid of this woke agenda of all of these schools and the agenda of funding. I mean, come on, let's not even pretend. He doesn't push as hard as he used to because he wants to be in the in crowd. But I haven't seen a 360 from him. I'm not going to see him talk about how we not having single payer is good. Hmm. I sympathize. Trying to think what you can do. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do as far as what I know this point. I'm going to try at some point between this week and next week to call the local Secretary of State and ask them the questions I want to ask about this damn congressional race. Um, and then the week after that, I'll probably try to knock on some doors. Just kind of talk to some people and see if I can count on their support. And at that point, we'll go from there. I have one person who said they'll campaign for me. Well, I guess two technically, but one of them's not really feeling that well. So that's that. Three. Yeah, Aaron, I have some impressions that people say are accurate, but like I said, you would never see Sanders flip to the degree that she has. If he does a 20% flip, she's done a 360. Dude, even Obama, like for as much of a, because he did flip when he ran in 2008. He was against gay marriage. Then he was losing all the white voters he had before, so the court the LGBT people. He was like, all right, well now I support this thing that I always should have backed if I wasn't such a bigot. Uh, but you would never see him go on Fox and be like, I agree with the dismantling of the Affordable Care Act, the legislation. I signed the law, and I support President Trump's American Health Care Act. You would never see that. Only one that has gone that extreme for no reason is Tulsi. Everybody else is what they were 3 years ago. Everybody else except her is consistent. Even the conservatives, I don't even like them, and I'll admit they're consistent. They've been saying the same thing year after year. Well, the only time they had some like real blatant hypocrisy was during that Supreme Court vote where they're like, "Oh, we're not going to confirm Garland because it's an election year," and then you get you get Ginsburg who passes like 2 or 3 months before the election. Oh, we have to rush our new person through. We absolutely know where they are. They're the pro gun, pro war, anti healthcare pricks that they've always been. You could take one person's positions and basically staple them on the rest of the Senate, and it's the same. Yeah, you remember Jem when Ginsburg passed, and the same Republicans who were saying we should not confirm a Supreme Court justice in a presidential election year were completely fine with shoving through Barrett. You remember? All she had to do was retire, but she didn't want to. Same thing with Feinstein. All she had to do was retire, but she chooses not to. She'd rather go back to the Senate half dead. Oh my God, you're so disrespectful. Like, I'm just calling it a spade a spade. She's been diagnosed with more than just shingles. If you look at her, you can tell she's frail. And people have been talking about her mental acuity now for years. So I don't. This isn't even about age. This is about someone not being physically there, and they should step down. They really tried to say calls for her to resign were sexist. I was laughing so hard. I was like, how many people have called for Trump and McConnell and all these other people to resign? And like, are you serious? Oh, that ambulance. Terrific. She's useless at this point. Absolutely. Like I said, if I got my way, she would resign, and then Newsom would appoint Barbara Lee, and we would finally have our third black female senator in U.S. history. That's really crazy that black women support the Democratic Party with, was it 90% of their vote, and they only have ever had two black women make it to the upper chamber of Congress. Like, no one besides me thinks that's absurd, like just insane. Because there's a whole bunch of black congresswomen like in the House, but they barely ever make it to the Senate. That's like a presidential election for one of them. They're glued to their seats. Oh yeah, I could just picture you try to get Feinstein out of her seat, and it's got what was it, Gorilla Glue or Silly Putty, or like, they just can't move. She's like, I'm not leaving. Tells you they don't care. Oh, they absolutely don't. They know they can count on your votes, so they can put people in positions and kind of like take all the you know black women that they have and just cast them to the side, whatever. Dude, that's really crazy to think. They get more. Black women may be the Democratic Party's biggest base of support. Like, I'm not even joking. They might end up being like if we were to go group by group, they may be the biggest, most consistent block of support for them. And they've only ever had two black women elected to the United States Senate. Yeah, they get not over 90% of the vote. Dude, could you imagine if, like, just for an example, let's say I'm trying to think of something. It's difficult for me to figure out, but like just for the sake of argument, let's say that the Democrats got 90% of the Hispanic vote. So that includes Cubans, right? You would see all types of various Hispanics in Congress because they would say, "Oh, damn, we have this loyal constituency. We need to get some candidates that represent them." It's the same kind of logic when you have police departments in black communities that are run by black officers. It's all part of that same thing of representation. So when you have a party that basically says, okay, well, we know that we can count on black women to support us no matter what, so we don't really care if we support any of the people that are actually members of their ethnic group or gender, whatever. I feel so bad for Carol Mosley Braun. She was like, I prefer her over Harris 1,000%, and her career just tanked after she lost that reelection bid. That's also kind of depressing that we've had like multiple black senators, but then only like two of them have had multiple terms. Like I think it's just Booker and Scott. Because remember, Obama only had one, and then Harris only had one, and then Braun had one before she lost the reelection bid. But yeah, Braun's a very important part of history. I mean, the first black woman ever elected to the United States Senate, and a lot of blacks don't even know who she is, which is just sad, man. Because she literally held Obama's Senate seat before he did. They are not a swing vote. Yeah, when you're not there was this one conservative well, not conservative in the sense that he would just bootlick for Republicans, but he like leaned on that side, I guess. He passed away about a year and a half ago. And one of the things he said was that he believed that blacks should have it to where they're 50% for Democrats, 50% for Republicans, so that both parties have to like contend for their vote. Like, oh damn, we could end up having them swing to the other side completely in this election if we don't address these the violence in these inner cities and help out these communities that are ravaged in poverty and out of wedlock births. Oh, we have to make sure we do something for them because but they don't think that way. They just support the Democrats, and the Democrats are like, okay, cool, we have 80-90% of you locked down no matter what, so whatever. Blacks are not that organized, unfortunately. I know, I'm just saying I like that idea because he's not saying every single black person go uh leave the Democratic plantation. He's saying, hey, if you want to have a competitive constituency that they have to vie for and do things to impress, you should support both parties evenly, or at least like 60-40, whatever, because then they're going to be like, oh damn, we could end up losing these people. I'm just imagining Republicans like sweating bullets at the prospect of losing the black vote to the Democrats. Like just the idea that they would even, like have like just be scared, like, oh man, they used to not support us, but now they've been coming out recently, and we need to do something for them because they might switch over to the other side. Because I'm telling you, that's how they are with evangelical Christians, where they're worried about losing them or the Jewish vote. They go out and they try to do things to appeal to them. They don't just sit there and go, well, we know we have them locked down, so on to the next group. It's an interesting idea. I agree. At the moment, no one cares. Look at the amount of Indian politicians now. They are organized. It would be more of a meritocracy. Well, yeah, because I don't think you should just support the Democrat because they're a Democrat. And people used to not be like this. Like if you look at, for example, and Jem, I think you probably remember this because I know you probably like a kid when it happened, but you remember the '88 election, right? Where a lot of Jackson's supporters in the primary did not turn out for Dukakis, and that was a factor in him getting smushed by the by Bush 41 in the '88 election. And they had polling from the start of that year, or I guess like a few months before the primary was over, that said that if Dukakis ran with Jackson as his VP, they could win, or they would have won. But he wanted to pick that. He wanted to pick Benson, the senator from Texas, thinking that he was going to make a state that was in love with Bush turn on him because he picked their longtime senator as his VP. Well, I didn't know how old you were, Jim. If you remember Reagan, I'm sure you can remember the elections that were roughly around the same era. I'm just explaining that that's an example of how the party takes for granted the voters. Like they don't even care enough to try to give them an olive branch. Like hey, your guy didn't win. He came close. So because he came so close, we're going to put him as VP. So if something happens to the person that actually won, then you get your second choice. But they didn't do it. They said, no, we appreciate his hard fought race and he should be consulted and play a role in the campaign, but he will not be my running mate. And Dukakis paid for it. So out of all those Democratic nominees, I'm not even joking, out of all the Democratic nominees between, I'd say, the start of the 20th century, like if we go back to like the 1920s all the way up until now, Dukakis is probably the most bland, forgettable, least interesting out of any of them, like by far. Because I don't even like Hillary, but I could say, okay, she's a important historical figure, first woman to be the party nominee, first lady, whatever. Third female secretary of state, whatever, just little different, like supposed glass shattering metrics. I'm not a fan of Biden, but I could say, okay, well, he was, I guess, a fairly important VP. He apparently pushed Obama to the left on gay marriage, for example. But like Dukakis is just like he is the most bland, boring, generic. I'm serious. If he wasn't from Massachusetts, which is I know that Ted Kennedy backed him, so that's probably one of the reasons he was able to get the nomination. But man, that was just I don't know what they were thinking. Like how he got 10 million votes, I'll never know. We need to start voting like the Roman public back in the day. If a senator proposed a law they did not like, basically he would not go home until a compromise was reached. Yeah, because they were serious. They said, hey, we don't like this, so you're going to have to give us something we want. We don't really have politicians that fight. They just kind of, talk a good game and then wait until the next election and tell us that they're making progress. That it's always they don't have enough seats. That's why I didn't want the Democrats to win the Senate in 2020 because I was like, yeah, we've seen this game before when they had it in 2009, 10, before they lost it, and what was that, 14 midterm. It's like, yeah, they were saying we don't have enough seats to pass these things. It's always they don't have enough, and then if you give them more, they just keep saying we don't have enough, and then if they have supposedly enough, like with Manchin, for example, they get one or two of them, they're like, no, we're not doing this. That's why I said, man, I just get sick of I'm tired of it. Many senators' homes were trashed. Hey, you reminded me of the one from Colorado. I don't know if you remember that speech he gave. What was it, Bennett, where he was like, "My state was underwater." Oh no, he's like, "My state was flooded. It was underwater. People were killed." It felt so nice seeing one of them just like actually show legitimate like seething rage. It was so, like I love that. I don't even like Bennett. I thought him running for president was a dumb idea. That's why he got 2% or 1% in polling and dropped out and didn't win anything. But that I love that speech. It was great. He was like the crocodile tears of the senator from Texas. God, it felt so nice, man. When one of these people just actually acts like a human being, it's refreshing. Like Bowman was getting in trouble over yelling at Green outside or whatever, and she was talking about she was afraid of him and scared or whatever, and felt threatened. I don't know if you saw that, Jim, but that was in the news this past weekend, where there's a recording of Bowman outside yelling, and Green's yelling right there with him, but they're talking about corruption, and she's like claiming that Biden's corrupt or whatever, and she was saying that she felt threatened. And I was laughing because I'm just like, anyone that watches the video knows that she did not feel like afraid of him. But Jem, you understand that like if this was just a private interaction, you could maybe try to spin it like the poor woman thing. But because it's on video and she like again, she in the video is right next to him and smiles as they're arguing. And that's the threat. That's what you're like. I'm supposed to believe she was afraid. She sat right up there, throwing her hand up with her, black dress. going just like, I mean, that's not fear. Because if I'm actually afraid of somebody, I'm not gonna sit there and argue with them. I'm gonna try to avoid them or walk or run away. I mean, come on, it's just goofy, man. She was so terrified of that congressman. Oh, by the way, did you see that video of the pregnant woman that they're trying to say was bigoted because she tried to get her bike back from people that were trying to steal it? I couldn't believe the coverage of that story. It's like, here's a woman who is pregnant, who's trying to get her bike back that she paid for, and some guys come up and try to steal it from her, and because they're black, she gets accused of being you know what, and I'm just like, you really want me to believe that like that this pregnant was like, ha 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 ha, I will take the bike of these men. Like, that lady was mistaken, dude. But if you saw like TYT's coverage of it and the rest of their stuff, they really tried to make it sound like she was still like when have you what is the likelihood of like a pregnant woman stealing somebody's bike? Oh my god. Their coverage was horrible, man. I don't ever, that's why I said when I watch their stuff, I just sit there and laugh. And then it reset. Also, the app assigned it to the guy. Okay, but you understand what I'm saying about how they actually tried to say she was like a bigot for trying to take the bike. And I watched the video, and I don't even where like I don't see her call him an N-word. I don't see her call him any type of thing related to his ethnicity. I mean, it's just weird, they always throw race and everything. Oh yeah, I saw where she took his phone. I'm just saying that like the racial stuff that people tried to throw in there, I just thought was really goofy because it really wasn't about that. It was someone thinking that a bike was theirs and another person has it. We've got this new surge of pregnant women stealing people's bikes. I still can't believe I agreed to go up to this college campus. I'm addicted to. I don't even think she was being there. I just think it was people just trying to make a bigger deal of something than was actually there. Maybe yelling for help was not the best. I mean, sure, but if you're distressed or whatever, sometimes you do things that are not well thought out. Also, Jem, I hope that if you ever attend a press conference, you don't wear hoodies and shorts. That's very inappropriate. If you go to a press conference or any type of gathering, you always have to have on a suit and tie 24/7 at all hours of the night, all hours of the day. You're not even allowed to take your tie off when you go to sleep. You have to have that on too, choking your neck. That was a real controversy where Fetterman went to the senator from Pennsylvania. He went to a press conference in a hoodie and shorts, and the representative from Colorado was like, he took casual Friday to a whole new level on Thursday, and I'm like, lady, are you serious? Of all the things to like, this man's been in the hospital for depression. He comes out, and because he doesn't wear a suit at like what one press conference a few times, most time the guy's in a suit. That's enough for you to go on Twitter and complain about. But you know damn well if she went to a press conference and I said, "Oh my God, look at how short her dress is," or "Oh, why is she wearing a bikini?" People would be calling me sexist and saying he thinks he can control. I guarantee you, God, man, they pick the dumbest stuff to have a controversy over. This is the media we have. Disgusting. But it wasn't even the media's fault. Like an actual sitting member of Congress had nothing better to do Then talk about the clothes a senator had on for a little press conference. Oh yeah, I forgot I turned it off. They just jump to assumptions rather than looking any deeper into the story. It's how easy it is to manufacture controversy. Looking for attention. Oh, she was definitely looking for, right. Well, I guess since she got divorced from her husband, then she needs to find a new man on Twitter, I suppose. For not she doesn't have his attention anymore. She has to go to one of the guys online to get it from to receive it. Oh my god, you talked about her getting divorced when, like, man, you know how many people have talked about me being single and told me that I'm gonna die alone, or that I tell you my favorite thing is like when they try to say I was gonna like assault women, but then they also accuse me of being homosexual. So it's like you're so I guess I'm both apparently, right? They can't even pick which slur or allegation to throw out there, you know? Yeah, the same relative who made a claim of like, oh, I'm afraid you will do something like this to you know, like some stupid comment they made about like, oh, you'll do something to a woman. Not even 4 years later, asked me if I was gay. So it's like, which one is it? So they need to pick a lane to travel down because they're just throwing darts at the wall. I already told you before. I see attractive women all the time. I just don't have a purpose to getting caught up in their nonsense. Because when somebody can't offer you what you want, you have no reason to offer them what they want. Can I give your relative a backhand? I mean, I don't condone violence, but if you see them, I'm not going to try to stop you. We just want you to be deviant. We don't care how. I don't know what's wrong with people. They're just they act really loony for some reason. I'm trying to think which to do first. I'll go up to that stupid school, or do I go to the? There's like 4 or 5 different errands today. I'm just kicking myself over. I'm gonna walk in there, ask them like 2 questions. I'm leaving. They would be jealous. Dude, that's why, Jen, we were having the conversation about like the female attire and oh, if you wear this, people will think you're gay. It's like people will call you gay over anything. Like they'll take a guy who, if he goes and sees a movie with another man, they'll try to say that they might like each other in a romantic manner. So it's like no matter what you do, as long pretty much they'll find a way to accuse you of that. Water off a duck's back. I'm just saying that pretty much anything you do, they'll find a way to like spin it in some negative way. Oh, I know they don't want me to make it. I mean, it's very apparent when you look at some of the little tactics that they use and the things that they do, and the crazy demands that they have. It's all just a downward spiral. Oh man, when I woke up today, I just knew it was going to be absurd. Oh well, you know what it is. I try as hard as I can. Sometimes you come up short, whatever. But it is what it is. I'm not surprised with this stuff. Hey, Jen, what did your hero Larry Elder's dad used to say? You're not responsible for the results, but you can't control the results, but you can control the effort. I know when Elder got in that in the in the Republican presidential race, you were smiling from ear to ear. I was surprised that Scott got in too, because he's the only sitting senator who's running for president. It is the first time ever that we've had two African Americans on the Republican side running. It's such a milestone. That's how you know TYT is an internet poison, because they can't see an interaction between black and white person, anything other than the racial one. Hey, listen, you say that, but guess what? If we go and we look into your inbox, you have loads and loads of pictures of Anna Kasparian. Let's just keep it real. You love that lady. She's one of your favorite commentators. When you see her on your screen, you feel serene. So let's not even pretend, okay? So you can keep speaking trash about TYT, but we know what's really going on behind the closed doors, merchant. We know who you've been eyeing all this time. I remember I showed my brother like a recent like a old one of my favorite TYT videos where they were talking about like stuff on airplanes, and he was surprised that Anna's hair used to be brown, because it's been like blonde basically for I think like the last 3, 4, 5 years. But it was just funny that he like noticed her enough to be like, oh, she used to have brown hair. Man, when people said that most of these blondes aren't even real blondes, they weren't lying. Because even Kyle from Secular Talk is doing that. I don't know what the deal is at this point. Um, Jem says Scott is wasting time looking for a cabinet post. Yeah, well, my thing is, what I really believe is happening is a lot of the Republicans in the Senate like him as a friend, because you know how these people are. They get friendly with each other. They have no disagreements ever, so it's really easy for them to just feel like connected. So a lot of them are friends with him, and they've been like pushing for him to run, even if they are not going to endorse him. I think only one of them has endorsed him, because they really do want anyone that's not Trump. But the other part of it is they don't want to accept the fact that and this is my belief. You can get mad at me for saying this. In 2024, most Republican voters, again nationwide, right, will not support an African American as their nominee. I don't believe it. So they have a lot more faith than I do. Dude, that would be the funniest thing if Elder and Scott formed it. Like Elder was the presidential nominee, and then Scott was the VP. And it could go either way, because Elder could still run in like 10 years. He'd be 80. But it would be funny because I have a relative that is so Scott's from South Carolina. My relative is from there, and they live here now. And I was like, so if they run together, your two home states will be represented, California and South Carolina. That's his ticket. They have his states. America would freak out. The black GOP ticket. I would be shocked. I'm not voting for him, but I would be surprised. There's no way they're gonna have a black person as their nominee, and then as the VP too. Really? Oh, Megumi, you didn't hear the great results of the peace summit. The amount was dropped down, was cut in almost half to like 300, which is more so doable than that other number they were throwing out. Nah, Jem, his name's not Meg. You've been watching too much Family Guy. It's Megumi. Okay, Kotsky Merchant says Anna Kasparian isn't even on my top five of. Hey, you know what? You're right. She's not in your top five, but she is in your top three. You love that woman. When you turn on a video and you see her speaking and her name appears right underneath her, you stare with great glee, wishing she would come and visit me. So let's not even pretend. What? But why still have they increased the amount? Well, what it is that the person who was mediating it was like 60% on their side, 40% on my side. I guess the original payment is over. But Megumi, you have to remember that since we're dealing with the person that broke their agreement, that means you know who else can break the agreement, right? So if it gets to be too much and I'm still like unemployed, and let's say it's like July, August, they only have so far to keep playing this game. Years ago they were talking about online dating and she made a face when asked if she would date black. Well, I mean, but I've said before, you can not be bigoted and then just not want to date someone of another race. Well, yeah, hey, it's only fair. At least it is more manageable some, but I personally still think that is unfair when fully knowing you aren't employed yet. Well, I told you they don't care. Oh, and Megumi, my favorite line from the summit was, and this was the person's exact words: "You're homeless because you choose to be homeless." When I heard that crap, it took everything I had not to get up out of my seat and just walk out of there. That's one of the dumbest lines I've heard in the last several years. Somebody can't pay an amount of money that you know they can't pay because they don't have a job. They leave after that, and then your response to but here's the thing of how like everything ties together. So the spin artist, back in January, we had our several hours long feature film length exchange. Started like just going, you can't go back over there. He can't bring his expletive back over there. And then at one point said during this, uh, he put himself out. And I thought to this, I was like, how are you going to say somebody kicked themselves out, but then you're the one saying that they can't come back? But remember that Green Goblin Spider-Man exchange on the rooftop? You and I are not so different. That's what they say to each other. Like they have the same type of mental gymnastics to get out of taking responsibility for making someone homeless or alleviating them from being able to live somewhere. You know what I mean? Just it's interesting how for as much as they don't like each other, they keep having those same similarities in terms of like their manner of speaking and their way of like referring to things. And then they tried to say that I was like thrown out because of a behavioral issue or that they didn't like the way I spoke. I was like, oh, that's BS. What happened is they came up to me, demanded 500, and I started backing. What behavior? I only started mouthing off as they were like standing in the doorway, uh, you know, trying to like make me feel bad. I'm asking you for a little help and you can't help. So you get what I'm saying about like revisionist history. They try to like pretend it was something else. Oh, it's very warped. But they have to tell themselves stuff like that to not feel as bad as they actually are. That's inhumane kind of thinking. Hey, well, they're anything but human. Trust me. I told one of them that they don't have to worry about getting sick because evil never dies. They ain't gonna play in traffic, and all the cars will just move across the way or whatever. They have the plot armor of a true villain. But Megumi, you understand where it's like they actually tried to say it was me being rude that caused them to like want me to not be there, but I only left after they came up and demanded half a thousand. Oh my god. And part of the reason I didn't want to pay that is also because it's like you pay that and then they still feel like they can just tell you to get lost. But yeah, we'll do this little 300 thing maybe twice, and if I'm still unemployed, I'll just go again. Because like I said, the first time I left, I was scared, but guess what? I defied my own expectation. I now know how to manage myself without being in a place, so the fear has been alleviated. They are twisting what they said to you before. Oh yeah, they love doing that. Tell you, this is the era of liars and scammers and fraudsters. Just they can't tell the truth about anything. They even lied about and said that I didn't offer to show them my emails of all, like when you apply for stuff, you get like an email confirmation like, hey, you applied for this. They tried to lie and say that I didn't show them, that I didn't offer to show them that. And I was like, it's so crazy how, and I gave the example earlier, if somebody lies in the job application, I get it, because it's like you could lose your job if it's found out that you weren't telling the truth. But if you are like, what, to have to lie about something that happened in an exchange with a person where they offered to show you something, you said no, and then go, no, he didn't offer to show me this. God, man, like people will lie about anything. You can't even ask them if they brushed their teeth this morning before they try to lie and tell you they did something else. Like it's nuts. Well, Jem, it's just me saying, hey, here's some proof that I'm looking for work, even though the proof really should be the fact I answer all these calls and then drive to all these places. But that's apparently not enough. Uh, but you get my point that like it was me just saying, hey, here's proof of what I'm claiming, and then they refuse to see it, and then it's like, okay, well, so you're just gonna believe whatever nonsense you come up with in your head. I told you to get a job. I tell you, these people act like you can if you just want a job, there's just all these jobs they're just hiring, and like when you go there, they do the interview, and then 2 days later you're starting there. But Jem, there's with a lot of these places, they have a whole process. Like I got supposedly hired by a place. I say supposedly because I thought the same thing a few weeks ago with that the one that made me fill out the paperwork and then gave me the Dear John letter. I had a place, they had me interview with them this past I believe it was Thursday. Yes, past Thursday. I filled out all their forms on Friday. And then after filling all the forms, like, okay, great, now I can start, right? No, here's some more forms. We need you to give us this picture of this document, the picture of that document, the picture. And I said, well, guys, I don't have all this paperwork with. And then they also want me to take a test, some kind of like, you know, needle in the arm. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. But it goes back to my thing of how you you don't just walk in somewhere, do an interview, fill out an application, now you're hired. There's always this process, and sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it takes a week or so, but it's never just, want a job, now you're hired, get started. It never happens that way anymore. Even when I worked at restaurants, they had me watching like 2 or 3 hours worth of videos just to start working there. If only they experienced a semblance of your bad experiences with trying to find employment, they may find some sympathy for you finally. Jem says the process, it really does, because it's dragged out, it's ridiculously long, and it's not, none of it is simple. None of it is simple. Like if they're not asking for you to sand over 900 different documents, they're asking for you to buy the uniform pieces that may or may not come as fast as they want. I remember the last job I had, the one where remember the speed up session. You should be done. Remember that? Um, for that place, they wanted me to have a black shirt to wear like throughout each day or whatever. And I said, I don't have any black shirts. So, and they told me this the day before, right? So even if I try to order something online, it's not going to come that night. Uh, so they let me come and wear a blue one, and like the lady had like a problem with it before I got there. I was like, again, I'm only told about even working here the day before. Like, you can't expect somebody to start working somewhere again the day before, and then also have all the uniform pieces like that. That's ridiculous, but that's how they are. The videos at the restaurant is mandatory, and you get paid for it, so that's okay. Oh, all right, but what I'm saying is, and actually what's really funny is that the manager for that place got mad at me because their website went down. He was like, you should have finished it. Like, your site was down. I sent you a screenshot of the site being down, and I guess I should have been a technician and hacked it and rearranged it to work. That just dumb stuff. But no, I don't have a problem watching videos. I'm just saying that there's a lot of times a process that takes longer than just look for job, get interview, now you're hired. Like, yeah, I've yet to see what that happened this whole year. It's always dragged out. You need to have a test or some other certification before you start working for us. It's like they try to seek out to have a problem with you seriously. I tend to think this way at times whenever starting work or getting hired. Yeah, these places look for ways to like delay having you work for them, which is why I said that the lady made it sound like just fill out this form of like 3 pages. You fill it out, and then they send you another form, and it's like 7 or 8 pages. I'm like, Jesus Christ! Then you have to take this test. Of course, I certainly agree with this. The process is always dragged out every single damn time. I'm telling you, man. Like when the first job I had was this other restaurant. I must have come up there before I finally had my first day of work. Right, I think 4 or 5 times, like to interview with the lady that ran the place, to like be introduced to the kitchen or whatever, and to watch the videos on there. It was nuts, man. And like I said, that's the only job out of any of them I've had that I quit, and that's because they wanted me to pay $60 after making 90 for some shoes that were slip resistant. I couldn't get them a cheaper price from somewhere else. I had to buy it through their store catalog. So I was very irritated. I said, "You bastards want me to work 3 days for $10? Like I'm in China? Give me a break." I put my hat on and left. And this is all on the chance of getting hired. For you to be considered for the position, it's not guaranteed. No, it's not. And remember, all the different places you go to, it costs a certain amount of gas to get there. And these employers, they don't care if you're coming from another city. They wouldn't care if you're coming from another state. If you don't fit into whatever their specific, preferred, liked version of a employee is, you can go kick rocks. Dude, I remember when I told the lady where I was, the one that had the phone intercourse operator type voice, where she sounded all sexy on the phone. My name is, and I'm calling from that one. She was so unfamiliar with where I was, she had to look it up on Google Maps or whatever. And I got on that freeway and drove over there and sat down for 10 minutes and had the other person lady smile on my face, because that's what they do. They all giggle and laugh and act like they're so interested in you. And I still can't get over going to that job fair and having the lady say, if you fill out the application here, I'll call you on Monday, with her little stupid smile. That bastard didn't call me on Monday. I wish I could make a time machine and go back and tell myself, just throw that application in the trash. It's not even worth your time. I told you everybody's idea of helping me get a job was literally just sending random links. Like, just, hey, here's this place that says they're hiring, go over there. It's like, okay, but how is that helping? Like, you saw something and you sent it to me, and that's okay, whatever. Jim, I told you it's like $50 for a full gallon, for a full tank rather. It's like $4 or $5 for a gallon, and then 50 for a full tank. I'm telling you, you could drive for maybe like 2 hours and have to refill. If you're on half a tank, you'll be surprised by just how, like, you don't even have to go anywhere far, and that stuff will just start depleting and depleting. And I'm like, God. And that's why I said I was kind of reluctant to even want to take the one I'm trying to get now, because it's like if it's part time and they're having you drive around, well, and what are you really making if you have to worry about gas as well? You see what I'm saying? Of how, like, they don't those things together don't correlate. Where if you're having to like pay more for gas because you're driving around more, and to like work a job that isn't even a full 8 hours, then you know what I'm saying? It's just God. I'm glad they increased the wages. I just wish they would increase the hours. Yeah, because you won't be making enough money from the job due to the lack of yeah. Well, if they're giving me like let's say six, and I don't even know if I'm getting six. At minimum it's going to be at least four, and I'm getting 19.50 an hour. That means okay, 19 plus 19 is 38, 39 plus another 19. We're going to say it's like $80, okay, just per day. So that means if I'm getting around 80 or 90 a day, about half of it is going to go to gas to pay for the, to like ride around or whatever. You'll be spending more than earning. Well, see, that's why I told you that I really, the other part of being unemployed comes from the fact that I can't have a job that is part time and be expected to live off of that. Jesus Christ, Jem, are you serious? I really appreciate it. Wow. Thanks. I don't even know what else to say. I was shocked by that. I'm just saying, like, I don't come on here asking for anything. It's just me reporting what is factually occurring. Like, I didn't even want to take a job where there was driving involved because you know how these employers are. They look for any way to squeeze some pennies out of you. I hope so. Like I said, I try as hard as I can. Even when I was not unemployed, homeless, right? I still would go up to a place like this just to do a stream, and then like go to the library to charge stuff. And remember, I'm entitled. I didn't ask him to do that, but I'm entitled. But like I said, even in the midst of the like whole homeless saga, that didn't stop me from uploading or doing any of my usual tactics. The only time I don't do a stream on Monday or Saturday is if there's some kind of appointment I have. Like when I was working that job, I couldn't stream on Monday unless I came back at night and just was tired. I hope so, man. I really hope so. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been a really just insane couple of I'd say the last 7 weeks really, because even during the last month of me being over there, it was like every day was drive here, travel there, fill out this form. I just and then at the end of all of that to have that person come to me with their hand out for some money, I just rolled my eyes. Hey, Megumi, me and my friend had this joke. So, Jem, you remember how during the 2020 primary, I really hope this saga ends soon. Man, I hope so as well. Nobody's fighting harder to have it stopped than me. Well, remember, Megumi, I choose to be homeless, even though I look for work and asked multiple people if I could stay with them. But I choose to have nowhere to stay. The worst relatives in human history. But I was saying, Megumi, you remember how they said the Democrats rigged the primary against Bernie? I don't know if you remember, like I think it was Trump or somebody else was saying, good job, Sanders. Don't let them take it from you again. And me and my friend had this joke that if I were like let's say a famous person, and they and he was like known to be associated with me, he was gonna do like an interview on TV where they're like asking him, what do you think of this new job that Justin has gotten? He's like, I hope I hope it lasts. I hope they don't take it from him again. And the whole time that he says that, you could just picture this giant hand behind me, like reaching for the job to take it away. Because that's one of my biggest concerns. That even if you get hired somewhere, you're still not out of the clear because after 2 weeks, a month, it's a wrap. So that's what I'm always worried about. They ask him, "What do you think of Justin's new job?" I hope they keep him. I hope they don't take it from him again. And from the second you start working at that place, there's just this giant hand in the background reaching for the job, and after like 2 or 4 weeks, like 2 to 4 weeks, just grabs it away. Well, you get what I'm saying about how like the job stuff really has turned into a joke. Like I'll go and I'll work somewhere, and like really try as hard as I can. They want me to go and talk to these people. I talk to them. Last job I had, they never complained to the my actual manager at the company I was working for. That's how much I was. Well, like the only time I had an issue with anybody was that one woman that didn't. She wasn't even like over me, and she went. You know I'm talking about that stupid thing with her. But um, my point is that anywhere I go, even if I don't think I'm the last there, whatever, I still try as hard as I can. When I was at the retailer, if people didn't like, if they would ask me like, "Hey, where's a product located?" Of course, I don't know because they won't let me move from the front of the desk. I call one of my other fellow employees. "Hey, do you know where this thing is?" Then they would tell them where it was. Um, if the line got too long, I'd call one of the other employees. "Hey, I need somebody else up here. These people might get angry that the line's taking too long." Of course, I don't say it in front, but that's like the general idea. Um, I mean, it's like no matter what you do, you can work yourself to your last bone, and these people will still say, "Oh, you didn't do it. You weren't trying hard enough. We're gonna have to let you go." And if it's so interesting just to contrast that restaurant where you have this manager who like from the moment I became an employee was trying to like just find stuff to have a problem with, and then you have the manager at the retailer who didn't want to fire me and actually kept me on a little bit longer after the other the like higher ups were saying, get rid of him. It's just so interesting, like the contrast between the two. That's why I said the whole thing just was lousy. And my favorite part at the retailer is that this was like during the last, I guess, months of the virus really being a thing. My favorite part is when my manager asked me, because remember I'm wearing a mask. Uh, you have to smile at employee, and I said I can't, and it was like so comical that she actually laughed because everyone has to wear the damn thing all day long from the time you get there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they always talk about like customer service is appearing to be friendly, but how friendly can you really appear if you can never smile at anybody? You're wearing the mask all day. God, all day long, every day. I literally had two people ask me, "Do you smile?" I can't. I don't know, dude. It just really is unfortunate, totally out of your control. I'm telling you, you can show up on time, do all the stuff that they want, and they'll still be like, goodbye. And the thing is, like, I chalked up the restaurant, like, okay, that was just a guy that was a jerk. That retailer really drove me nuts because it was like I am fully convinced I tried as hard as I could. I don't care what anybody says. They want to try to find a problem with you and take advantage how you're a new employee as well. And new employees are bound to screw up because they've never, in many cases, done this before. They're not used to it. So to like put them under this microscope and just look for stuff to try to get rid of them over, I think is very unfair. But these places do that. Sorry, I'm on a conference call. No, it's all right. I mean, Jem, if it's any consolation, Akatsuki Merchant isn't writing much either. He's looking at his Anna Kasparian folder. So we won't be hearing much from him for the next few for probably another hour or so. He's very busy. It's funny because I'm just imagining like the folder doesn't even have like lewd images. It's just screenshots of her from various videos. Jem says, "Yeah, I do a lot of multitasking." Oh, me too, man. Sometimes I'll have like 8 or 9 tabs on my computer open. Like right now, I've got 5 of them. One of them's a script. One of them's some old article. Another one's a picture of a very beautiful woman. I did not mean to have that one still open. I have over 20 open. Oh, you know what? The person that I was staying with, or like I reached the agreement with, or whatever. Guess how? Dude, they had 500 tabs open on their cell phone. And I know that because when they told me to like do something on their phone, and I tried to do it. Um, I was like 500 is the maximum number of tabs you can have open. I only know that because again, like I tried to make one and the like X was marked out like it wouldn't let me. And I was like, how do you even forget to close all of these out? Because I had a relative who was elderly who had an iPad and they would have like 20, 30 tabs open, but like 500, it did somehow. That must be one of the most powerful phones ever created. Said, man, I couldn't believe that what I was looking at. Mm. Yeah, it still functions, surprisingly. I was shocked. Also, Aaron, I know that you sent me a private message asking for a Condoleezza Rice documentary. I'm not against doing it. I just have to because I didn't get her. I have her Secretary of State memoir, but I don't have her the one she has of her upbringing. I'd have to get that too to be able to make it. I don't know because they're not like if I have tabs open, I'm telling you, it's because I'm on different websites. The only site that they use is Instagarbage. So I don't know what they were doing all those different tabs. I've never had so many open to where I just couldn't make anymore. That I was shocked. They say you learn something new every day. I really did that day. Like I've never seen someone have so many tabs that the phone's like no more. Close them out. No more. I swear. You know what? Maybe if on my phone I might have 90 open, 80 open, but it's because sometimes when you go on Safari, you might forget to like close them out and just never bother with it. I swear I've never had so many open to where my phone is like, no more. Fake book and Insta garbage. That's a new one. I didn't even know you could have that many. I didn't either. The most I've ever had is maybe like, again, over the course of years, 60, 70. I've never seen anybody with hundreds of them open. But yeah, Aaron, you'll get your Rice documentary at some point because I do think she is a very important person. I mean, second female Secretary of State, first black woman to ever take that position. So you'll definitely be seeing some content on her at some point if I live long enough. China, China, China. Dude, I remember one of the nastiest things I ever read was this. I think it was a Russian politician, and he said something about she needs to experience the swelled word that rhymes with sock, and I was like, oh my god, because that was on WikiPiss for a long time before they finally scrubbed that. It was nasty, and like it was, and like I'm not even joking. When you go on most articles that site, there's a certain, like, they do have some nasty pages, but it's usually stuff having to do with like actually like acts like that. I was grossed out, man. She certainly has what is that? I failed English, so I have to look at what this word means. I'm not very sophisticated. You've exposed me to some new vocabulary. No, she is a very important figure in history. I will concede that. Even as someone who's not a fan of Bush 43, I'll still admit he had one of the most important two of the most important secretaries of state ever. Uh, and I mentioned before that in 2006 she was voted along with Jesse Jackson as the most important American black leader. So she is someone that is certainly worth knowing about and researching, and I'm all up for doing that. It's just one project at a time. Oh yeah, she's very charismatic. I would actually say that if she had run for president against somebody like Harris, she probably would have won, because Harris always looks nervous when she talks, which is really crazy. And see, that just shows you that, like, you have to wonder how many times these people actually speak to other people, because like, just remembering the fact that Harris was my senator and she got millions and millions of votes, yet when she goes up and talks in front of a crowd, it's like, really, that's the person that millions voted. Whatever. I don't get them. Gaddafi had tons of pics of her. He was mesmerized. I mean, I have to admit, there are some historical figures where if I find like some pictures of them, I do put them in a little folder together, because I just want to have all the images and not lose it. So you can call me weird. I don't even care. She's terrible in the cabinet. Oh, I thought it was a new word when you said. I didn't know your spelling had done that. Well, listen, she was put there because both. Well, during that whole primary, they were pushing for, you must have a woman as your VP, no matter what. Running mate must have triangle. That was like the thing they were pushing. So, after Biden got Clyburn's endorsement in South Carolina, he said, "Hey, I want you to put a black woman as your running mate." And then he said, "Okay, well, I guess I'll do this." Yeah, I've not been impressed with her over the last 3 years. That's for sure. But yeah, Jim, I think after the stream, I'll go and meet with some donors, some Citibank guys, some Wells Fargo friends, and I'll ask them if they'd be willing to make some contributions to my people based campaign, and I'll make sure to give them the favor of never challenging them on anything at all ever. That's the funniest thing, of like, if I want to run, I just go, okay, I'm gonna run, and then like ask questions about it from people that know what they're talking about. And then if like 90 something percent of politicians want to run, they have to meet with all their donor friends. Like it's the equivalent. I'm not even joking. And people will get mad at me, like, well, not regular people, but politicians. They would get mad at me for saying this, but it really is just a bunch of hookers that are up for sale. Like, they go and they meet with all, like, it when a politician meets with their donors, it's like a hooker meeting with her Johns or her pimps or whatever. I'm not even joking. Like, they are, like, I don't even know how anyone has any self-respect doing that. Like I said, big money needs to be drained right out of there. You got to end Citizens United. You have to just get rid of all of it. Oh, But I don't know if we can do it with the Supreme Court being as screwed up as it is. And the other problem is now you're always worried about. Well, it's just going to be a really lengthy process. Of all the black women, she's the most Stepford. I don't know what she is, but she just seems very nervous every time she has to speak, and I really wonder how someone like that acts the way she does was able to become a statewide official in my state. It's really bad. Oh, it's awful. But remember, we have a system that's slanted toward those that are rich because in 90% of elections, the person with the most money wins. And I've said before, and I do believe if I ran and I knocked on everybody's door and actually like got a coalition of people who were together and trying to like uproot the system and were sick of having a representative that was that felt like she was owed the seat and she could just not campaign and win anyway. I think we could win. I think there's a chance. I'm not gonna say we would just cruise to victory, but because these people when they start pouring that money in, it's like a the end of the world. But I do think that there is a chance of that kind of coalition comes together. This might be a silly question, but do you know who Diane Abbott is? You're gonna make me think that's the Texas governor's wife. He has the the same last name. Yeah, grassroots, can overpower a lot of obstacles. But no, Megumi, I'm gonna say I don't know who she is. Well, it's harder to get people excited for local races than presidential ones, unfortunately. Um, I mean, that's just a reality that people they. I mean, that's why a lot of times people don't even vote in local elections at all. You see voter turnout of like 20, 30%. It's terrible. That's one of the reasons I kept bringing up Jackson because one of the good lasting things that came from him running, in '84 and '88 was that black voter turnout skyrocketed. People who had never voted before were getting registered and they were showing up at the polls. It was a huge movement. That is terrible. Now you think I'm kidding, Aaron? If it looks like you're winning or whatever, you give these people enough months or time, and guess what you're going to see? A bunch of corporate money pour in, a bunch of ads, probably mostly with lies and smears. It's because, like I said, they don't even have like a real base of support. So they have to get their donor buddies to put some stuff on TV and convince people of something. I remember that Tom Steyer, that billionaire, when he ran that ad about, I think it was either impeach Trump or something. Man, I'll never forget that one day I sat at home, just I didn't feel like going anywhere. That ad ran on TV 7 times. And I was like, we're gonna know who he is after this thing keeps playing. You must be really rich to be able to have it play that often. I was like, damn, dude, like when the same ad plays that many times, whoever's running it, they have a lot of money. They have some coins that are very expendable. She is one of the black women prominent members in the Labour Party here in the UK. Oh, I wasn't familiar with her. You know what it is? They barely talk about, like, if you live in America, the only time you really hear about UK politicians is probably their presidential election. That's about it. Now, the UK for me is a little bit different because I used to watch the prime minister's questions before the guy, I'm forgetting his name. I'm remembering his voice though, but there was they had like the same guy for about 9 or 10 years, and then he left, and I was just kind of I didn't find the other people that much fun. Well, yeah, but the Queen's not a politician. I mean, the royal family will get covered, but as far as like just individually elected members of the almost never. I don't fully follow politics, but I recall she was suspended for something that she said in relation to Jewish people that not having the same disasters as black people. She opens parliament. I'm just saying that like actual coverage of people in foreign countries to those that don't live there can be really scant and limited. And it's really sad too because members of Congress can our parliament, whichever you want to call it, the governing body, they can play very highly influential roles. So it's really sad the just what gets covered and what doesn't. I liked when the protesters mooned Parliament and the members saw and carried on. Oh, they're probably used to it. It's kind of funny that I compared the summit to not the summit, but that like I when I had my argument with the feet with the spin artist, I compared like the way I was reacting to him to the way that like they act during the prime minister's questions where they're making all those noises like as he was speaking. I was like, yeah, making like little comments or whatever just in the background. That's what the last State of the Union felt like, where normally you're supposed to sit there and then you clap if something good is said or you agreed with, and then you don't say anything if something else was said. And they were booing and making all types of noises. Like I said, they're throwing all types of decorum out the window, which is why I said it's even crazier to me that people still want to hold on to that suit stuff for men, where oh, you have to look a certain way to work at this job, even though the people that work the job are unprofessional in the way that they act. But we're very concerned about appearance. I tell you, the one relative that was like, I didn't know that Congress didn't have a dress code. I was like, yeah, they have three rules. You have to be, if you're in the House, 25. If you're in the Senate, 30. You also have to, be a resident of the state, natural citizen. Other than that, that's it. So that's why, and like they have individual state houses that have rules about dress code, but like I said, the National Congress is very it's narrowly defined. Like it's like an informal thing for the most part, from what I've seen. Because even people that break the like supposed dress code, they don't get in trouble. Bobby Rush addressed Congress after Trayvon Martin's death wearing a hoodie. They didn't throw him out. So it's like it's one of those things where it's not. I'm not gonna be too worried about. Oh well, women can wear anything, so you can't use any female examples. They can wear whatever they want. Pants, skirt, dress, heels, open-toed shoes. It's only a huge deal if you're a guy and they want you to have that little uniform on. But even if you don't wear it, there's nothing they can actually do because it's not a like it. There is no government position that stipulates that you have to wear a particular attire to have it. I'll put it that way. That triangle, I tell you, it's so unfair, man. Like I'm not even joking. If I was elected to the House and I was like, all right, I could just show up where my thing. I already know if one of my relatives finds out about you need to wear a suit and tie. I'm not doing that. But just as an example, like if I was a woman and I wanted to just have on, a little button down shirt, some slacks, whatever, nobody would care. Because remember, they wear all types of stuff and no one has an issue with it. Kimono. I wear that when I go to Japan. I tell you that it's kind of funny that like I'm just like it's just it's just interesting how all the different cultures have different ideas of clothing. It's really interesting. No, they wouldn't believe that I have Scottish ancestry. They would just say I'm trying to push the woke agenda. I'm just saying, like as a kid going to Catholic school, having to wear a tie every day, I'm really not interested in doing that again. Like maybe sometimes you go to a funeral, whatever, but Monday through Friday, 8 hours a week, nah, I'm good. I like robes. The Arabs wear. They do look comfortable. I'll admit. But you get what I'm saying, that if you're a woman, you just have so many options, man. Like I've even seen so like for example, if you came to Congress as a guy and you put on some Oxford shoes with no socks, you would have people who complained about that if they saw it. But I've seen some women, they wear like pumps with socks because how cold it is. I'm like, nobody gets mad at them or tells them that that looks unperfect. Because again, it like they don't go through this weird. People claim that women get more scrutiny for the way they look than men. Maybe on the internet, but as far as like, you know, as far as what's allowed at a job or whatever, I don't think so at all. I honestly find that so refreshing. I told you, Congress is so backwards that if I introduced a bill to end homelessness, it would get almost no attention. But if I came to Congress wearing a dress, it would be all over the news. Fox would be running programs and showing the screenshots and having their commentators on, all discussing the merits of me being allowed to dress in this manner. It would. I mean, I'm not even joking. It would, and that's why I told you the news, the mainstream news in America is such a joke because the types of things that they focus on don't matter. Like you'll never see a story about how the U.S. has a D plus in infrastructure, all these crumbling bridges and roads. But guess what? You'll see a story about. Oh, that man wore some pumps to work. Like it's that's how backwards things are. It honestly feels like the reverse in a lot of cases. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is I see people who say things about what a woman wears, and in almost every instance, someone shoots it down. They say, "Hey, you shouldn't be talking about her that way. Hey, what the hell do you think you are to be telling her what she can wear?" So that's why I said, as a guy, it's like you see that, and then you have people that are talking trash about what you have on. It's like, well, where's my defense? Like I said, we if you just look around long enough, you notice this stuff. I'm just imagining like them actually having a whole panel of people. Oh, it is disparity. I'm just imagining Fox having like a whole panel of people talking about this congressman decided to wear a gown to the job and broke all the norms. Ah! And I'll just be sitting there like, this is really what they choose to focus on. Like 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And instead of discussing higher wages, lowering the cost of living, oh my God, look at what this man is wearing today. God, the people's priorities are all screwed up. I tell you, they are so backwards. They have disparity like you wouldn't believe it. Someone stole Nancy's underwear. during the riot. You know what's really sad? If I was a rioter and I'm actually trying to like make some money off of doing that crazy crap, I probably if I was gonna steal anything, it would be like a letter or so, like she signed it so I could put on eBay. So they're really because you how are you gonna prove that's her underwear? Who the see the laptop makes sense because they might have some stuff on there they can get off. But I mean, a lot of computers have a password in front of them, so if you don't know the password, it's then the computer is kind of useless. I still can't believe that happened. Like that, watching that day, just there are a lot more pressing matters to discuss and cover. No, Megumi, the most important things we need to enforce is a dress code for men, uh, because it's the most significant issue. To hell if that man is homeless. To hell if we're having record levels of unemployment and wages haven't been raised in over 10 years. The most important thing, the most significant thing, is what a man wears, or what kind of mean stuff that he might say about somebody that we like. I told you, you're not going to see a Kotsky merchant for the rest of the stream. He's too busy looking at that Anna folder. He's mesmerized by her bun. Oh yeah, I remember the tan suit scandal where they were like losing their minds over him wearing the suit that was light. And I remember what I told you before about how like men's clothing is so damn limited, especially in formal like work settings, that even if you just wear the same thing in a different color, people lose their minds. I just think it is sad in a waste. It is. Because guess what? If I decide to launch the Poor People's Campaign in California and I'm going around trying to help people get a house or get a job or whatever, you're not going to see me complain about this person uh, has a scratch on their jacket or this person wore because again, it doesn't matter. The person's survival is the most important thing. All this other crap can be gone into at a later point where things are more adjusted. But I was saying like that the suit thing is like it's emblematic of what I'm talking about. He wears a suit that looks just like any other suit, minus it being tan, and they have whole panel segments talking about it. I haven't heard about Castro in so long since he ran for president. He just kind of faded off the map. Yeah, Megumi. About you can look it up if you want to. About 9 years ago, and I remember when that happened. Like it was yesterday. Obama wore this tan suit, and all of these conservative commentators were like trashing him for having it on. Yes, it was just because of the. It looks like any other suit. It's just a tan color. It's like the color of my jacket. Like it's around like a lightish color, maybe like a light brown sort of. And they were all losing their minds about it. It was really funny because, like I said, that's the type of scandal that should happen when we have no bigger issues going on whatsoever. And guess what? They looked it up. Other presidents wore tan suits as well. They showed pictures of Reagan. They showed pictures of Clinton. I mean, it was a joke. It was stupid. They looked like idiots. Castro just demanded debates on MSNBC, though, gave the network a seizure. Well, I'm glad he's doing that. This can't be happening, man. It did. Twilight Zone confirmed for sure. Yes, Jim Reagan, your hero. Well, one of your three heroes. The other two are his. Or what was it? Senator from North Carolina, Jesse Helms. Senator from South Carolina, Strom. But yeah, it is the Twilight Zone. They find the weirdest stuff to have a problem with. It's really sad. And again, there's a lot of other pressing matters that go completely unaddressed. Oh, is this line really getting long? Oh no, it's not. I'm noticing more and more people seem to not be coming to Starbucks anymore. Like that's a thing I just been picking up on. Like I used to see the whole. It was because I hated this parking spot because cars would get behind me and I'd be trapped in here, or at least it would be like I'd have to wait for them to go up further. But now it's getting to where there's like one car, two, three, four in the like all together, and then they just kind of go away. So yeah, people aren't buying this expensive coffee anymore. Bro, when I got that drink and it was $5, it's like, yep, that's gonna be my last sip. Same thing with I mean, because $5 is a whole tank of gas for that little tiny drink. I could a whole gallon of gas rather. I keep saying tank and gallon, I'm mixing them up. Um, but I was also saying, the other part of it is I'm laughing at that tiny. I will never get over that tiny little shake at Chick-fil-A being $4.99. That thing costs way too much. I'm not even joking. Like I think it's crazy that you can get a large regular drink for $3 there, but then if you want to shake a small one, it's five at the. How exactly busy is the traffic there in the U.S. on that? I think it depends on where you are, because over here, the state with the most people out of any of them, 40 million people, or I guess 39 million, you'll see traffic more often than not during the whole course of the day, but more like uncontrollably and ridiculous during the afternoon hours where it's like 4 or 5 o'clock, like just boxed in, like you can't even move, that type of traffic. But if you want to talk about some really awful traffic, yeah, like that 4 or 5 period is the worst. Now, if you go to a state like, and I was again only down there for a few days, so I don't know, but in Alabama, I found the traffic to be very, light because they don't have anywhere near as much people there. Um, which is why I spent so much time driving around because there was never really like a period where I was like, oh damn, I'm stuck here and I'm all boxed in. Man, the amount of spending this person has me doing, good luck going to Texas. I already said before, like part of me wanted to take another trip at some point during this year, but um the bigger factor for me besides like the whole it's usually on average like 1,000 2,000 is also the fact that there's it's just kind of lame going out there by myself. So that's the other part of it. That's quite a similar situation we have here too. Around those afternoon times traffic can get ridiculous. I swear sometimes they have so many cars that the light will turn red and people will still be like stuck in the street part. Like they won't even be fully past the light because of how much traffic there is. It's bad, man. It's really terrible. As a person who is cycling, road rage can put your life at risk. So many dumb drivers don't put on their indicators and such. Well, yeah, drivers are. I think they come in two forms. You have the ones that are like really responsible, and you have the ones that are also kind of like just sort of whatever. I like to believe I'm one of the responsible ones as far as I really do try to look at the roads at all times. Anytime I turn into another lane, I turn my full head back to make sure there's no car behind me because you have that blind spot from that back mirror that you can't see anybody coming from sometimes. Um, but yeah, drivers can be very dangerous. and most specifically to other drivers, because they'll turn without looking. They'll, you know, do all types of weird stuff that can get people put in peril or danger. It's really sad. I see I bored Aaron. He was like, he gave his Castro update and dipped. He was like, I'm not listening anymore to this propaganda. Hmm. It's going to be a very busy day today, going to that school campus and getting groceries and picking that guy up. And it's oh, we're locked and loaded. I've got like 4 trips, and they're all around the damn place. Because at least 2 of them are right next to each other. I guess you count 5 if I want to put some gas in there too. I feel like it is a case that if you don't experience an accident, you aren't really going to care much about preventing it. Oh yeah, when I experienced it, I made sure to make sure it never happens again. The mindset of a lot of incompetent drivers. Yeah, texting on the phone. The only time I'll pull out my phone is to change the song on something. And usually I won't do it if the traffic is too, like, for example, if I'm on some open road and like there's no pedestrians and I'm just, looking with it, because like that way I know that there's nothing that's going to have to like force me to stop, where I can kind of like ease up a little bit. But if I'm on the freeway or, like, again, a lot of traffic and the cars are moving, I always make sure to just keep looking at the road. So the only time I really try to mess with my phone is if it's somebody calling me, which I tell them not to call me if I'm driving, because I don't, want to run the risk of like getting into some trouble. Um, but yeah, generally I try to like avoid touching it altogether, unless it's at a stoplight or some other wet place in which I feel secure and comfortable. They have so many gas places. It's really interesting. Oh, but no, incompetent drivers are all over the place. They never stop. They just sit there and they. Oh, I forgot. I have to go to that tailor for the buttons too. That's another thing I have to go and do, because they were closed yesterday. So hopefully the guy isn't having too many people around him. So I said all these tasks. Is it legal to smoke while driving there? I think it is. I mean, I'm not going to say. Don't quote me. I'll probably have to look it up. Smoking while driving in California, because like I said, it wouldn't affect me one or the other since I don't. But I haven't seen anybody get in trouble for that. But then again, people break the law all the time, so I wouldn't even be too shocked. This stuff just gets weirder and weirder. I literally had a former classmate that I looked his name up just to kind of, just out of curiosity, because I think I told you before, people I used to associate with, I don't really spend much time trying to like be around or find out about, including many of the chicks I've spoken to. Like, there's not a single one I've ever felt a desire to look up, because I just, like, I'm done with them. I'm through. Um, when I looked him up and the first thing I saw was a mugshot, I was shocked. Like, that surprised me. Some of the stuff people get thrown into is really not that comfortable. As far as like, I really wasn't expecting it. Oh, oh, and it was drug related. He had some kind of illegal substance, and it was funny because it happened like right before it became legal. before the state. I guess the voters had they had it on a ballot initiative. They voted to legalize it. So if he had just waited another year, he wouldn't have been in trouble for having it. Yeah, I really didn't expect that because he wasn't some violent or I mean, just I guess the perception I had of him as we attended preschool together probably is different from what he is now. But it's like I wasn't expecting that someone who I got along with, never really had any type of behavioral problems whatsoever, to see them in that position. I tend to feel the same about a lot of the people I used to be friends with or knew since school. Yeah, it's not pleasant for me to like be like, oh, what's this person up to? 'Cause actually, what ends up happening is we get the reverse. I've had several people I went to school with years and years ago. They're like, hey, how are you? What's up? Are you all right? How have you been? I'm like, you waited 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Why now? Like I said, I just think it's weird to get caught up in like, hey, how have you been? That type of thing. Okay, am I gonna have enough time to run these errands? Because I don't know what time I'm supposed to go over there. It's almost 12 now. The tailor usually doesn't take that long, but then going up to that stupid place, I guess I could do it later in the afternoon, but I don't know. It's just all these trips. Well, look, I'm gonna just go and start doing this stuff so I can not feel as annoyed. Um, Thanks for showing up, Megumi, Jem, Aaron, Akatsuki Merchant when he made his cameo. I will, and I really appreciate Jem's contribution because this really is like my final year. These people are driving me off the rails. Um, they hit you up because you have 2,000. Oh, whatever. They're. I mean, 2,000 on YouTube really is nothing. Like, if 2,000 impresses them, they must have an orgasm when they see 2 million. Just I don't know what their reason is. I don't pay much attention to them. But look, I'll stream again next Monday. Because there's going to be another one of these crazy weeks. So thanks for showing up. Have a good rest of your day. And it appears the homeless saga is temporarily over, maybe permanently. I don't know. And I can only hope these employers don't keep doing the same old sleazy tactics. But we know better. We know these bastards operate. So thanks for showing up and enjoy the rest of your day.